Do I look kind of pissed off again? You know why? Because I just called like the White House again. I was going to take a vow to myself every single day. I was going to call the president and like have a constituent request that there be a QUIZNOS sub installed at the Pentagon for our fine public servants that work at the Pentagon every single day and have to deal with a subway that's been there since the 90s when it was actually kind of okay. But now, the people at the Pentagon, the good people that serve us every single day, have to deal with pink tomatoes, wilted lettuce, and cucumbers that are too floppy to like hardly even mention, but I had to mention something. So what do I do now? The fine, the volunteer on the White House comment line, okay, when I called about getting a ceasefire in Gaza, they let me leave a request about Gaza. And now, like, when you call that number that I put on my short, like, with Easter, like, listening to Dr. Stephen Greer talk about, like, some, I guess, like, spacecraft stuff or whatever, like, that number is actually a number from Amnesty International from when we were all calling to get a ceasefire in Gaza, which we actually have a ceasefire in Gaza right now. Like, praise God, right? So since that got taken care of, all the petitions for that, all of the phone calls for that, that's like a huge goal that everyone has reached, like in the world, that Gaza has a ceasefire. Like something that I thought would be necessary would be a QUIZNOS at the Pentagon. There are less than 200 QUIZNOS in the United States right now. There are way too many Subways. The food at Subway is not good. They send their tomatoes out when they are still like yellow, and they try to get them to ripen on the trucks. And these poor tomatoes didn't even have a chance, and that's not even a joke. And yes, like the cucumbers are floppy, like they're slimy. This has happened to me more than once at Subway. QUIZNOS was my favorite sub place. They had one in Janesville. It's gone. They had one in Platteville. It's gone. They have a pepper bar, and they have real bread. Don't you think that everyone, like, I understand why QUIZNOS only has so many establishments in the United States. There doesn't need to be 3,000 restaurants, like, with food that's disgusting. Yes, it's admirable that QUIZNOS has less than 200, like, restaurants in the United States. Remember, like, Harold and Kumar, like, go to White Castle? QUIZNOS is the new White Castle, where all the people smoke weed, and they're like, where in the United States is there a QUIZNOS? We have to go. I live in Cuba City, Wisconsin. The closest QUIZNOS is Dyersville, Iowa. That's almost 2 hours away from me. I don't have a vehicle, but I have friends. I have friends, and they'll take me to QUIZNOS. I have friends. I have friends at the Pentagon that need a QUIZNOS. So now, the only way that I can submit a constituent request to the president is to write a letter. How do I put a petition online so that people can sign a petition online and we could get lots of petitions, and then I could put it in my letter so that the good public servants at the Pentagon get their pepper bar? With a little help from my friends, I know that we can. Yes, I'm a little pissed off. I waited. I was like the 20th caller, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. I'm like, yes, I'm finally going to ask, or can I please make a request to President Trump to command that there is a QUIZNOS at the Pentagon? Well, let me see what I can do about getting a petition started at the Pentagon. Good people of the Pentagon, why don't you guys, you're like, why didn't we think of that? You should have thought about that. Because in the 90s, Subway was good. I remember. They used to have yoga mats in their bread, though. Isn't that kind of weird? QUIZNOS bread is toasty, and it's soft, and it tastes like real bread. And there's guacamole all the time at QUIZNOS. It's important to me. And I might be seeing you there sometime soon. So I want to make sure that by the time I get there, a QUIZNOS is already established. So that was my day today. Yes, I'm on the mat. I say, hi, I have a constituent request from the mat in Cuba City, Wisconsin. Or I didn't say Cuba City, I said Wisconsin. That was my original mat. But this is my new mat. And also they're like, well, you can leave a comment. And I'm like, will you please tell Vice President Vance that he is doing an excellent job? And she's like, oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I can't leave a comment for the vice president. It has to be the president. So I didn't leave a comment at all. I just said, well, ma'am, thank you so much for your service, being a volunteer at the White House, taking your time to listen to people like me. I don't know why when I made a request about Gaza, well, I'm glad that they did because there's a ceasefire, but they wouldn't take a request about anything else. So maybe they thought that was nonsense. I don't think it's nonsense, especially when it comes down to foods that are fake foods or having too many restaurants that are of low quality that are taking up way too much energy. They're like, oh, but we need jobs. The last time I went to Subway, I know this is kind of a manifesto against Subway. No, it's actually just, I'm singing the praises of QUIZNOS because their food is real food and it shows. Last time I went to Subway, the time before that, it was disgusting. The second time, I ate half of my sandwich and my friend was like, she's like, I got a little bit of money. Let's go to Subway. And I'm like, I don't particularly want to go to Subway. And she's like, well, if I'm going to eat, you're going to eat too. And I'm like, well, okay. So I was a little hungry, but I wasn't hungry for Subway. Well, here's the story. I ate like the first half of my sandwich. By the time I was done with my sandwich and left Subway, I was starving. It's like eating that sandwich made me hungrier than when I originally was kind of hungry. It's like, why was I more hungry after I ate like a large piece of quote unquote bread and like all these vegetables that didn't even have a chance? These are some things to think about. People need to have jobs that have value. Yes, working at Subway, you learn self-reliance. You learn how to work on a team. That has value. But if you're selling a product of low quality, then we should have some jobs of high quality where people that are adept at other things that are more suited to who they are and have more value in our country. Why don't Subway, or why doesn't Subway be like QUIZNOS and like downsize by, gosh, like freaking, I would say 40%. Like if you want to be like QUIZNOS where there's less than 200 stores in the United States, and then get tomatoes sent to your business that are red, or you know what I mean, where the lettuce isn't wilted, where they really need to improve their bread. Maybe they took the yoga mat stuff out of it, but it's gross. These are things to think about. And yes, I am a constituent. I'm a person that makes constituent requests, I'd say regularly. I mean, I have like the hotlines on my phone. So, and she knew, like, I didn't even get to the part. I mean, I kind of did. Like, I hope she doesn't think that I was joking. She does not. She does not think I'm joking. I have respect for everyone. I just thought maybe as a celebratory thing, and since Subway just... Here's the thing. Anymore? They keep going back. Anymore? Like, is there other places in the Pentagon to eat besides Subway? There has to be. But it's like they keep going back, and it's just like, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep... And then they inflated the prices. This is like a good lesson for people. Like, when I lived in the 90s, like when Subway was decent, like the vegetables at least... Subway was good. I could get a Subway sub, and like my mom, every once in a while for a treat, would get me like a couple Subway subs and put them in the fridge so I'd have one like on Monday for a school lunch and then like on a Tuesday for a school lunch. They stayed decent, like for the most part, like better than like even a Subway sandwich that got immediately made for me, like it was already deteriorating and gross, like by the time I ate half of it and like was starving when I was done. So I'm going to, I guess, like I urge, like, and so I guess I urge like the people at the Pentagon, if they think that this is a good idea, since the really huge accomplishment of getting a ceasefire in Gaza happened, I say thank God, right? I mean, that's how I feel. That maybe we can lighten up slightly and be like, hey, you know what? Like, there's no reason why we don't deserve a QUIZNOS at the Pentagon. Wouldn't that be cool for QUIZNOS to say that they represented the United States public servants at the Pentagon by serving them there? Food for thought. All right, so reporting from the mat. Huh, there we are. Reporting from the mat in Wisconsin. Peace, and I love you. Good things. I mean, that was already a great thing. Gaza, that was already a great thing. So good things, like QUIZNOS for all of us. How am I going to get to QUIZNOS? Will I get to the one in Dyersville sooner than I'll get to the one at the Pentagon? We'll find out. But yeah, anyway, it's about that time. All right, I love everyone. Peace.